This video is going to be 10 bands who got more successful after changing their lead singers. Come on in and have a look. Good morning, everyone. It's Robert from On My Turntable. Hoping a great morning this morning. It is Saturday morning. As always, a coffee kind of morning. Cheers, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. As I excuse me. As I said in my intro, this is going to be 10 bands that became more successful after replacing their lead singer, or in some cases, singers. These aren't in any particular order. And I didn't say became better. I said they became more successful. In some cases, depending on the camp that you're in, you may feel that the original version was better than the new version. But I'm mostly talking about success here, how they became more successful as a band. So I'm going to start off with AC/DC. Again, there's two camps with AC/DC. There's the Bon Scott era and the Brian Johnson era. But this band itself is an awesome powerhouse. 200 million albums worldwide, making one of the best artists of all time. Under the Bon Scott era, you got 7 albums. High Voltage, the Australian version. TNT, you got High Voltage, the international version. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Let There Be Rock, Power Age. And my favorite, Highway to Hell. Still going to be my favorite. And then they started working on another album called Back in Black. And Bon Scott actually went in and played some drums on a couple of tracks in February of 1980. And then this was, I think, on the 7th of February. He would pass away the 19th. That's a whole other story. So they were left with a decision to continue as a band or find a lead singer. So they found a lead singer in this unknown guy called Brian Johnson, this English singer Brian Johnson from the band Geordie, to compete Back in Black. It became one of the best-selling albums ever, 50 million albums worldwide, making its second best album in music history. Certified 27 times platinum. It's just a powerhouse of an album. They went on to make some awesome albums under Brian Johnson, nowhere near the success of Back in Black, and nowhere as good in some cases as the Bon Scott era, but they became more successful with Back in Black under Brian Johnson. And they were kind of forced to get a lead singer. It's not a matter of Bon Scott was screwing up, let's get rid of him type of thing, even though he was heavy into drugs and booze and everything else. But he was still a front man for the band. So, two different camps. I'll let you decide. But you have to admit they became more successful under Brian Johnson. Same with this next band. There's two different camps for this one. Van Halen. You got the David Lee Roth era, and you got the Sammy Hagar fans. I call this one kind of a tie. For example, in the 1984 album, the last album with David Lee Roth was a huge success. 10 million copies, 4 successful singles. You can't deny the success of that album. You got 6 albums under David Lee Roth. Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, again 1984. You've got 4 albums with Sammy Hagar, 5150, OU 812, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and Balance. Now, under Sammy Hagar, those 4 albums were multi-platinum albums, number 1 multi-platinum albums. That didn't happen with the David Lee Roth era. Sammy Hagar was a better singer. David Lee Roth was a better front man. Of course, you got Eddie, greatest riffs, best solos, innovative guitar work, the whole bit. But what camp are you in? I have to say that the Hagar era was more successful. I can't say that I like that era. Actually prefer the Roth era over the Hagar era. But as far as being successful, I think the Sammy Hagar era was more successful. You have Genesis, same type of situation, two different camps. 100 million albums, or up to 150 million albums sold worldwide. That's just ridiculous. One of the world's best-selling artists. 15 studio albums, 6 live albums, all kinds of awards. You've got the progressive era under Peter Gabriel, from Genesis to Revolution. Revolution. Sorry, my writing is all screwed up. Trespass, Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Amazing, amazing, amazing albums. Then you have Phil Collins, who took over from Peter Gabriel, who left to go on a solo career. A Trick of the Tail, Wind and Wuthering. And then there were 3, Duke, Abacab, Genesis, Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance. Except for the last one, Calling All Stations, which had Ray Wilson on vocals, which I've never heard of. Or never heard, sorry. I've heard of it, but I've never heard it. Fans of the Gabriel era say the band sold out, became too corporate, too poppy, with Phil Collins on the spotlight. Fans of the Colin era say that the Gabriel years were boring and hard to stomach. I can't see that. I think they're fantastic albums. The Genesis sound definitely became less progressive and more pop as the band went on, and that kind of developed into Phil Collins' solo career. So the band definitely became a pop band, and more successful than the Peter Gabriel era. So I can't deny that. I don't know what camp you guys are in. I like the first couple of albums with Phil Collins, but again, it became very poppy. I just buy a Phil Collins album and listen to it. The next band is Journey. So their first album, the debut album called Journey, is more progressive, more instrumental. One of the first of 3 albums with vocalist Greg Raleigh. I really like this era. He's got an amazing voice, more of a rockin' band than they became. You've got Journey, you got Look Into the Future and Next, 3 albums under Greg Raleigh. And then they became more successful when Steve Perry became the lead vocalist between 78 and 87. They were huge, 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 huge. Hits all over the place. You got Evolution, Departure, Dream After Dream, Escape, Frontiers, Raised on Radio, and then the last one to feature Steve Perry, Trial by Fire. 25 gold and platinum albums, 18 times platinum. Huge, huge band. I think because of Steve Perry's vocals, his soaring vocals, they became one of the best-selling acts in that particular era. But again, more pop than they first started out in. Whether that's just a thing that happened with a lot of bands. I think of Chicago. I think of these guys. I think of Genesis, who I just talked about. It's where I think some bands feel they have to go to become successful. They don't want to stay true to their beliefs. They have to reform and go towards what the corporate entities want, I think. The next one is Iron Maiden. 41 albums, including 17 studio albums, 13 live albums, 4 EPs, 7 compilations. Just a huge, huge, huge band. But it wasn't always Bruce Dickinson. The debut album featured Paul Di'Anno, which I love. I think that's amazing. And I love their second album, Killers, sorry, featuring Paul Di'Anno. Just remarkable stuff. Completely different than the Bruce Dickinson era. But of course, drug use kind of screwed up Paul Di'Anno's time with the band. And then The Number of the Beast, their third album, that's when they brought in Bruce Dickinson. And the rest is kind of history. They became a huge, huge band. He's on some of these most commercially successful albums by the band. The Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, No Prayer for the Dying, Fear of the Dark. It's just a run of fantastic, fantastic albums featuring Bruce Dickinson. Shot the band to superstardom. I don't know where they would have gone if they would have kept Paul Di'Anno in there, even though I do love those first two albums. I think they're a bigger band with Bruce Dickinson, more commercially successful. This next band, REO Speedwagon, Like a Journey Story. They were a harder-edged rock band when they started out. Terry Luttrell was on their first album as the lead singer. He went on to join the band Starcastle, which is a great band, by the way. They brought in Kevin Cronin, that unique voice of Kevin Cronin, for REO 2. Still a rockin' album, as Gary Rich Rath was still a leader of the band. He's a great guitarist, underrated guitarist for sure. The third album, Riding Out the Storm, Mike Murphy's on vocals, as Kevin Cronin left because he didn't like the direction the band was going. Mike Murphy would sing on 3 albums, Riding Out the Storm, Lost in a Dream, This Time We Mean It. And then it wasn't until their 6th album that they brought Kevin Cronin back. And that band, again, went on to a more pop, sometimes sappy, ballady type of band, rather than the hard-edge band that they started out to be. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish, 9 Lives, High Infidelity, Good Trouble, Wheels Are Turning, Life as We Know It, The Earth, A Small Man and His Dog and a Chicken. That's a weird title. Building the Bridge, Finding Your Own Way Home, Not So Silent Night, Christmas with REO Speedwagon. They sold 40 million albums worldwide. All kinds of #1 hits out there. Again, because of the ballad way that the band changed directions and became more commercially successful because of it. Fleetwood Mac, another one. All kinds of lead singers. Started out as a blues band, their very first album with Peter Green. Notice Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. And Jeremy Spencer was in this one as well. Then you had Danny Kirwan. That era of the band with Jeremy Spencer. Then you had the Bob Welsh era. I love the Bob Welsh era of the band, actually. I think they're really good. Future Games, 1971's Future Games was the first one to feature Christine McVie as a full-time singer in the band, again with Bob Welsh sharing vocals. Then you have Penguin. You got Bob Welsh, Christine McVie, and Dave Walker, who does some lead vocals as well. Then you've got Fleetwood Mac, their kind of their White Album, 1975, the first to see Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks in the band after Bob Welsh left. And after that came the opus of Rumors, and that just shot the band to superstardom. 3 lead singers, Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, and Christine McVie. One of the biggest selling albums ever. 40 million copies worldwide. All kinds of big hits on that one. Kind of their opus. I don't know if they did anything after that became as successful. But you got to admit that with these new lead singers, Christine McVie, Stevie Nicks, and Lindsey Buckingham, that was the genesis of the band, so to speak, that brought them to superstardom, for sure. Pink Floyd. Really 3 different versions of Pink Floyd, in my opinion. You got the Syd Barrett era. You got the Roger Waters version of the band, and you got the David Gilmour version of the band. With Syd Barrett, you got the Piper Gates of Dawn, and started out on Saucer Full of Secrets, their second album, but the mental health was in question, so they brought in David Gilmour. And again, that just brought a whole new dimension to the band. But you still under the influence of Roger Waters, under Moore, Ummagumma, Adam Hart Mother, Metal, Obscured by Clouds, The Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, The Wall, Final Cut. And then under the Gilmour era, you've got A Momentary Lapse of Reason, The Division Bell, and The Endless River. I think under the David Gilmour influence and era, Pink Floyd became an international hit as far as a band. 250 million albums sold worldwide. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You got 4 multi-millionaires in the band. I don't know. They all making millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I think if this cool little band under Syd Barrett was kind of a cool 60s type of band, but it probably wouldn't have gone too far. But under the David Gilmour era, along with Roger Waters, I got to give it to him as well. That just shot the band to superstardom. Next we have the Moody Blues. Again, another huge selling band. 70 million albums worldwide, 18 platinum albums. Just a huge band. You got the very first album, The Magnificent Moodies. You got Denny Laine on guitar, who went on to be with Paul McCartney and Wings, and Clint Warwick on vocals, and Mike Pinder on vocals. That would only last until their second album, Days of Future Past, which would bring in Justin Hayward, and again with him under the leadership, that just shot the band to superstardom. They put out so many great albums. Days of Future Past, In Search of the Lost Chord, On the Threshold of a Dream, To Our Children's Children, Question of Balance, Every Good Boy Deserves a Future, Seventh Sojourn, Octave, Long Distance Voyager, The Present, Other Side of Life, Sur and Mare, Keys of the Kingdom, Strange Times, December. I mean, Justin Hayward became Moody Blues, really, and just shot the band to superstardom with his talent, with his vocals. Well, he's got amazing vocals. And yeah, that's my feelings on that one. And finally, my favorite band, Deep Purple. I'm going to focus on the Mark I and the Mark II era of the band. If I go on to the Mark III and whatever continue on, it's going to be a whole different version, whole video on its own. But my favorite band, many lead vocalists, many members of the band. But you've got the original lead singer Rod Evans on their first 3 albums, Shades of Deep Purple, The Book of Taliesin, and Deep Purple. More psychedelic, more progressive than their later hard rock style. The guitarist Richie Blackmore, kind of the leader of the band at the time, wanted a harder edged, more of arena rock vocal style, kind of to match Uriah Heep, that type of thing. So he recruited the amazing Ian Gillan, which started the Mark II version of the band and possibly the most successful version of the band. Some may argue that David Coverdale's version was more popular with Glenn Hughes, but I think Ian Gillan has been always part of the band in different forms. That led to a string of 4 amazing albums with Ian Gillan: Deep Purple and Rock, Fireball, my favorite, Machine Head, and Who Do We Think We Are. I think under that leadership and under that lead singing, Ian Gillan could not be matched in any way. He's still singing in his late 70s today, still sounding amazing. So there you have it, guys. There's 10 awesome bands who got more commercially successful after changing their lead singer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have yourself a great day. Love you all. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.